The sun burned red over the alien city of Kalezor, where slaves were sold like animals. Hundreds of creatures, some tall, some short, some with many eyes, stood packed in a dirty market square. All were waiting. All were watching. At the center stood a tall stage made of black metal. A large sign above read, Grook's Slave Auctions, Best Prices in the Galaxy. The auctioneer was a fat, gray-skinned alien with 4 arms. His name was Gruk, and his voice was loud like a siren. Next slave. He shouted. 2 guards dragged a small figure onto the stage. The crowd went quiet. She was a girl, thin, dirty. One leg was missing, replaced by a broken metal rod. Her skin was a soft blue color. Her face was bruised. Her eyes, however, were clear and sharp. Gruk laughed. Look at this, a one-legged Zarian. Half a body, half a brain, half the price. The crowd roared with laughter. She's no fighter, someone yelled. She can't even stand. Another voice said. Gruk raised his hands. Starting bid? 50 credits, that's right. Half price for the one-legged trash. The girl didn't speak. She didn't cry. She just stared straight ahead, her jaw tight. One man in the back watched her closely. He was human. His clothes were plain, dusty from travel. His face was calm. His eyes were serious. He said nothing as the crowd mocked the girl. He watched her. Not her leg, not her bruises, but her eyes. Those eyes were not broken. They were angry, alive, thinking, 40 credits. Someone laughed. 30! Gruk looked annoyed. Come on, someone take her. The human raised his hand. I'll pay the 50, he said. Silence fell for a moment. Gruk blinked. You serious, human? The man nodded. She's mine now. The crowd laughed again, but the man didn't care. He walked forward, paid the credits, and took the girl's chain. The girl looked up at him, confused. Why? She asked. He didn't answer. He just said, come. The next scene began inside. A small ship, cold metal walls. Soft humming sound. The girl sat on a bench, staring at the floor. She was free now. But she didn't feel free. She looked at her new owner. He was working on something, small tools in hand, focused. I'm not useful, she said suddenly. The man didn't look up. You paid too much, she added. He smiled slightly. 50 credits isn't much, she frowned. Why did you buy me? Now he looked at her. Because you're not what they think you are. She shook her head. You don't know me. I saw your eyes, he said. What about them? They're not the eyes of a slave. She didn't answer. He stood, walked over, and placed a strange metal object on the table beside her. It was a robotic Liga, sleek, clean silver. Her eyes widened. You made this? She asked. He nodded. For you. Why? She asked again. He paused. Because I don't like seeing smart people in chains. She stared at the leg, then back at him. I don't even know your name. You can call me Reed, he said. And you? She looked down. My name was taken from me. Reed sat beside her. Then take it back. Later that night, the girl sat alone in her small room on the ship. The new leg was beside her. She hadn't tried it yet. She touched her face, looked in a mirror. The girl in the reflection looked weak, but her eyes still held fire. She remembered her home planet. She remembered lights, machines, books. She remembered learning. What happened to her? What did they do to her? Why did she feel like a part of her mind was still locked away? Suddenly the door opened. Reed stood there. I'll teach you how to use the leg tomorrow, he said. Then we start your training. Training? She asked. You're not just a survivor, he said. You're something more. She stared at him, confused, hopeful, scared. Reed looked serious. You're going to need to remember who you were, because the galaxy's going to need you. Asterisk outside the ship, stars filled the sky. The slave girl, broken, forgotten, sold for half price, had just stepped onto the path of something far greater. She didn't know it yet. But soon, the galaxy would remember her name. Asterisk the hum of the spaceship echoed softly, like a quiet heartbeat. The girl sat on the edge of a small bed in her new room. Small, but warm, clean walls. A light overhead, no chains. No guards, but her mind was still trapped. She looked down at her leg, or rather what was left of it. A broken metal rod, rusted and loose. It hurt to move. It hurt more to remember. Her eyes turned to the new robotic leg on the table beside her. Silver, smooth, with soft padding near the joint, made for her. Why would anyone do that? She didn't trust it. She didn't trust him, Reed, the human, the man who bought her for 50 credits, a man who smiled too little. And looked too closely. The door opened with a soft hiss. Reed stepped in, holding a steaming cup. He handed it to her. Water with? Protein. You need it. She didn't take it. You still haven't answered me. He raised an eyebrow. About what? Why did you buy me? I already told you, he said, setting the cup beside her. I saw your eyes. I've heard that before, she said. From people who still put chains on me later. Reed sat on the floor, leaning against the wall. He looked tired, but focused, like someone who always listened, even when others didn't speak. I don't put chains on people, he said. I break them, she scoffed. So now you're a hero? No, he replied. I'm an engineer? Silence. Why? Me? She asked again. Reed looked at her carefully. Because when I saw you on that stage, you looked like someone who still had something to fight for. She didn't respond. Her hand touched the robotic leg again. It felt light. Strong, not a tool of survival, a gift. She didn't understand gifts. He stood and walked over to her. Let me help you attach it. She hesitated. But slowly she nodded. Reed worked quickly, gently. His hands were sure, practiced. In 10 minutes, the new leg was connected. The pain faded, replaced by a strange balance. Try standing, he said. She rose, wobbly, shaky, then still, she stood. Really stood, her heart beat faster. The floor felt different. She felt different. You made this? She asked. Yes. Why? Because I build things that matter. She looked at him for a long time. You think I matter? I think you don't know how much you matter. Hours later, she sat in the ship's small control room, watching the stars fly past through the glass. Reed sat beside her, sipping something hot from a cup. Neither spoke for a while, then she said, I remember machines, I remember teaching, but then everything goes dark. Reed didn't look at her. They may have blocked your memory. Why? Because you were dangerous to them. She turned sharply. I was just a scientist, a researcher. I didn't fight anyone. Reed looked at her now. Sometimes knowledge is more dangerous than weapons. She looked down at her hands. I don't even remember my own name. You'll remember it when you're ready. She stood, started to pace. Her new leg made a soft hiss with each step. They called me broken, weak, worthless. They were wrong, Reed said. You don't know that. He walked over to the console and pressed a button. A screen lit up. A photo appeared, her, years younger, standing in front of a strange glowing machine, smiling, her eyes widened. Where did you get that? She asked, breathless. I scanned the slave market records before I bought you. You were once listed as a level 4 engineer from the Zoran Science Guild. She stared at the photo. That's my lab. You built something, he said. Quietly. Something important. But after that, your name disappeared. Your planet was taken over. You were sold. Her head hurt. Her vision blurred. Flashes of light, screaming, cold metal tables, needles, guards. They made me forget, she whispered. They took my mind. But not your soul, he said. She looked at him. There was something honest in his voice, something steady. She didn't understand it. Didn't know if she trusted it, but it was different. What happens now? She asked. You rest, you eat. You recover, and then? Then, he said, you learn, you remember. And when you're ready, we go back. Back where? To find out what they took from you, and maybe take something back. That night she sat alone in her room again. She touched her new leg. She stood. She walked. Then she sat and whispered to herself, I don't know who I was, but I know who I'm not anymore. I'm not their slave. She looked at the stars through the window. Somewhere out there, the people who broke her were still in power, but something had changed now. She could stand. She could walk, and soon she would run. The ship moved through space like a silent arrow, Cutting through the stars inside, the girl sat in the control room with Reed, her new leg clicking softly with each movement. It had been 1 week since she left the slave market, but her mind still carried the weight of chains. She hadn't told him everything, not yet. Reed was showing her how to fly the ship. He called it the Vera. Small, fast, older than it looked, but it had secrets. Try the left lever, he said calmly. She pulled it gently. The ship tilted slightly. Reed nodded. Good, you're a fast learner. She looked at the controls. Buttons, lights, screens, they all looked familiar. Too familiar. I think I've flown something like this before, she whispered. Reed glanced at her. Really? She nodded slowly. Or something bigger. Later, in the engine room, Reed handed her a small metal box. Can you open this? He asked. She turned it over in her hands. Smooth, silver, no seams. Her fingers moved on instinct. She pressed a point near the edge, twisted, then slid a hidden panel. Click. The box opened. Inside was a glowing blue crystal. Energy hummed softly. Reed raised an eyebrow. Took me 4 hours to figure that out. She smiled, a small one. I just knew. He nodded. Your memory is broken, but your mind isn't. That night, she sat alone in her room again, staring at the stars. She had started to remember small things, sounds, images, words. One memory came clearly now, a lab, bright lights, glass walls. A large machine in the center. She was standing in front of it, holding a data pad. Numbers flowed across the screen. Her hands were steady, her voice calm. Test sequence complete, she said in the memory. Power stable. Weapon. Core charging. Her breath caught. Weapon. She closed her eyes and the memory slipped away, but the words stayed. Weapon. The next morning, Reed found her already in the control room. I remembered something, she said without turning around. A weapon, a machine. I was testing it. Reed's expression changed, serious now. Do you know what kind of weapon? She shook her head. No, but I felt afraid. You built it? Yes, or helped build it. But I think I didn't. Want it used? Reed sat beside her. That's a good reason for them to erase you. Do you think it still exists? He nodded slowly. If it's powerful, someone kept it. They were silent for a moment, then she asked, Can I really fly this ship alone? Reed smiled. You're ready. The next few days were full of lessons. Flight controls, star maps, emergency repairs. Reed was a patient teacher, but he didn't go easy on her. You're not weak, he said once, after she slipped on a hard turn. Then stop treating me like I'll break, she snapped back. He only smiled. Exactly. She was faster than he expected, smarter. Sometimes she fixed things he couldn't. Sometimes she finished his sentences. One night, she sat in the engine room, fixing a cracked power cable. Her hands moved like they had done it 100 times. Suddenly, a word entered her mind. Kether drive. She froze. Kether drive. She whispered it again, then stood, rushed to the control room, opened the ship's computer. Reed walked in. Moments later, what's wrong? She typed fast, her fingers flying. I just remembered something. A word. Kether drive. It's not normal tech. It's ancient. Reed leaned in. Alien tech? She nodded. Lost, hidden, but I studied it. Maybe even used it in my work. The screen flashed. A file appeared. Kether classified locked. She tried to open it. The screen asked for a code. She paused. Then typed, ZAR 1138, access granted, reads. Eyes widened. How did you know that? I didn't, she said. But my fingers did. Inside the file were blueprints. A large device, complex, energy-based. Reed's voice was low. This is no weapon, this is a planet destroyer. She stared at the screen, frozen. I made that, she whispered. I helped them build it. Reed stood still beside her. It's not your fault, they used you. But I designed the system, I know it. And if it's still active, they'll use it again. She turned to him, eyes sharp now. We have to stop them. Reed nodded. Then we need more than this ship. She looked at the screen again. I think I know where the first prototype is. But it's in the Forbidden Zone. Reed didn't blink. Then that's where we go. Asterisk in her room. She stood before the mirror. No chains. No collar. No fear. She wasn't just learning to fly ships. She was learning to fly free. Soon they'd learn what happened when you tried to break a Zarin mind. You failed, because now she remembered. The ship drifted in deep space, far from trade lanes and patrol routes. Outside the windows, the stars looked colder. Inside the control room, she sat frozen, staring at the blueprints on the screen. The weapon's name glowed at the top. Project Helix Kether Core Reactor. Under it, classified Empire Command Level only. Reed stood behind her. His arms were crossed, but his eyes were sharp. You sure this is it? He asked. She nodded slowly. This is what I was building before they erased my memory. A Kether reactor inside a mobile cannon. It doesn't just destroy ships. What does it destroy? Reed asked. She turned to face him. Planets, she whispered. It can destroy whole planets. They moved to the briefing room. She transferred the files to a small projector. A glowing 3D model of the weapon appeared in the air, long, dark, shaped like a needle, with a glowing core in its center. Reed stared at it, jaw tight. I've seen parts of this before, he said. Rumors, broken satellites, disappearing colonies. I thought it was myth. It's real, she said. I helped design the energy flow system, but I wasn't told what it would power. You think the weapon still exists? She nodded. I think they finished it. I think they're hiding it in the Forbidden Zone. Reed frowned. That's Empire territory. Blacklisted, dead ships. No signal, no law. Which means no. Witnesses? She said quietly. Later, she sat alone, staring at the open file. There was a video log. She hesitated, then pressed play. A younger version of herself appeared. Healthy, confident, wearing a lab coat. Test log 47. Kether core reaching stable output. We've hit 900 terawatts. That's dangerous. Command wants a mobile version. I asked why. They didn't answer. I don't like where this is going. The screen went dark. She covered her mouth with her hand. I knew, she whispered. Even then, I knew something was wrong. Reed found her later, sitting on the floor of the storage room, eyes red. I watched the logs, she said. I warned them. I said the core was unstable. I said it should never be used. And what did they do? Reed asked. They ignored me, then they erased me. Reed knelt down beside her. They used your mind, not your will. She looked at him. That doesn't make me innocent. It makes you dangerous to them, he said. That's why they want you forgotten. She stood up. Her voice was calm now, cold. Then it's time the galaxy remembers me. The next day, she and Reed made a plan. She pointed at a star map. There, Sector V92, that's where they tested the first reactor. The planet was marked destroyed by natural causes. That's a lie, Reed nodded. I'll call in help. People I trust, ex-soldiers, tech scavengers, rebels, they'll come for the truth. You trust them? She asked. He looked her in the eye. I trust you, and you'll know if they lie. 3 days later, Reed's team arrived, a small crew of 4 people. A human pilot, a silent alien sniper, a robot with a cracked voice, and a woman with cybernetic eyes. They looked rough, worn down, but ready. Reed introduced her simply. This is the engineer who built the weapon. They all stared. She didn't flinch. I didn't finish it, she said, but I know how to stop it. That was enough. The ship jumped into the Forbidden Zone. Dark space. No stars, no signals. Just silence. Then a shape appeared in the distance, long, floating, still, a station, black metal. No lights. She stared at it. That's it. That's the prototype site. The closer they got, the colder she felt. Inside her mind, old voices returned. Memory wipe in progress. Subject is resisting. Sedate her. Her hands shook. Reed noticed. You okay? She nodded. Let's finish this. They docked on the side of the station. Inside it was dead quiet. Dust floated in the air. Broken lights flickered. Her boots echoed on the floor as she walked. Every hallway felt familiar. They found a sealed door with a scanner. She placed her hand on it. Beep. Access granted. The door opened. Inside was a large control room, and in the center, a glowing sphere. The Kether core, still active, still humming. She stepped forward. This is where it began, Reed looked around. So how do we end it? She pulled up a control panel. If we take this data and show it to the galaxy, the Empire can't deny it anymore. War crimes, hidden weapons, dead planets. But they'll come after you, he said. They already did, she whispered. Asterisk, she stood in front of the core. Light shining on her face. Once they erased her to hide the truth. Now, she had found it again, and this time she would share it with everyone, even if it meant war, even if it meant death, because the truth was no longer a secret. It was a weapon, and this time, it belonged to her. The Kether core glowed in the dark room, steady and alive, like the heart of something ancient and angry. She stared at it, knowing this was the machine they had used her to build, the weapon that destroyed worlds. Behind her, Reed and the others downloaded files from the old system. Data chips filled with secrets, evidence, proof. 5 more minutes, Reed said, watching the progress bar. She nodded. But her hands were clenched. Every part of the station made her skin crawl. The lights flickered like dying stars. The air smelled of metal and silence. She could feel ghosts here, not real ones, but memories. Her own, and others. She looked again at the Kether core, and it looked back. Suddenly the station shook. A deep, low rumble echoed through the halls. The crew froze. What was that? The sniper asked, raising his weapon. The pilot looked at the control panel. Something's coming out of hyperspace. Reed's voice was tight. Who? The woman with cybernetic eyes opened a screen. Empire fleet, she whispered. They found us. The crew ran. Sirens screamed across the station. Red lights blinked. Doors slammed shut. The core room sealed behind them. She looked back once before the door closed. I'm not done with you, she said softly. They moved fast through the dark corridors. She led the way, the map still fresh in her head from long ago. The station was part of her story, her prison, her nightmare. Now she knew every turn. Outside, shadows moved, dark shapes docking. Entering. Soldiers. They reached the hangar. The Vera was waiting. Ramp open. Reed turned. We split up. 2 people draw the soldiers. The rest escape with the files. The crew looked at each other. I'll go, said the sniper. And me, said the woman with cybernetic eyes. No, she said. I should stay. They want me. Reed grabbed her arm. No, we need you. You're not bait. But I'm the reason they're here. And you're the reason we're leaving with the truth, he said firmly. Now run. Gunfire echoed as the team split. She, Reed, and the robot sprinted to the ship. The other 2 turned the corner, drawing fire. The Vera's engines roared to life. Inside, the pilot, already wounded, took the seat. They're jamming the controls, he said. She pushed him aside gently. Let me... Her hands moved fast across the panel. She bypassed the main controls, rerouted the thrusters. Engines ready in 3, 2. The hangar doors burst open. Soldiers entered. Go! Reed shouted. The Vera blasted out of the station, spinning sideways to avoid fire. Lasers flew across space. The ship shook violently. She held the controls steady. Behind them, the Empire ships chased. 1, 2, then 5. Reed fired back. The robot dropped a mine into space. Boom. 1 ship exploded, but not enough. We're outnumbered. The pilot yelled. Not outsmarted, she said. She dove the ship toward a nearby asteroid field. Reed's eyes widened. Are you crazy? Yes, she said. But I remember the path. Inside the field, rocks spun like blades. She flew low, twisting between stones, flipping upside down through narrow cracks. Behind them, 2 enemy ships crashed. The crew cheered. Then the robot's voice cracked. Message from Sniper. Urgent. Though. Message played. We're surrounded. This is it. Tell her. We believed her. We believed in her. Make it count? Silence. She closed her eyes. Another piece of her heart broke. They escaped the asteroid field. The Empire didn't follow. Too risky. The Vera floated in quiet space, damaged, tired. Inside. No one spoke. Finally, Reed said, they died to get the truth out. Now what? She stood slowly. Now? We show the galaxy what they tried to hide. She inserted the data chip into the main screen. Videos, documents, test logs, weapon blueprints, star maps of destroyed planets. All from Project Helix, all real. She looked at Reed. I'll broadcast it. They'll come after you. Let them. Asterisk later she sat alone, watching the stars again. 2 crew members lost. One message burned in her memory. Make it count. She would, because the Empire had made one mistake. They let her live. Now, she wasn't hiding anymore. She was flying straight into the fire. Asterisk, the room was silent, only the soft hum of the ships. Power core filled the air. She stood in front of the camera, the galaxy watching her, though they didn't know her name yet. She took a deep breath. Her eyes were steady. Her voice calm. My name was taken from me. My planet was erased. My memories were stolen. I was used to build a weapon called Project Helix, a weapon that destroyed entire worlds. I was sold for half price at a slave market, but I survived. I escaped. And I remember everything now. She paused, then continued. The Empire will say I'm a liar, that I'm broken, that I'm nothing. But I have the truth. I have the files. I have names, locations, recordings, and if you're hearing this, then it's time to stop being afraid. It's time to rise. The screen went black. The message was sent, not just to one world, but to all of them. A few hours later, the responses began. A message from a mining colony. We lost 3 cities. They said it was a reactor accident. Now we know. A whisper from a rebel outpost. We've seen this tech before. We're with you. A call from a hidden resistance ship. Tell us where to strike. And more kept coming. Hundreds, then thousands. Across the stars, people were listening. She watched them. All, her hands shaking. Reed stood beside her. You did it, he said softly. No, she replied. We started it. The rebellion didn't begin with warships. It began with stories. Videos, testimonies, secret files released to the public. Suddenly, the Empire's lies were cracking. Old officials ran. Soldiers defected. The truth was like fire, spreading. Fast, burning through darkness, but fire also brings enemies, and the Empire was ready to strike back. A week later, the Vera landed on a forest moon where rebel leaders had gathered. It was an old resistance base. Hidden beneath the trees. Inside, fighters from every race stood around a long table. Some wore uniforms. Others, scraps and scars. She entered, silent but strong. The room went quiet. A general stood. You're the one who built the weapon? I was forced to, she said. And now? He asked. Now I'll help destroy it. The plan was simple and deadly. The Empire had moved the main Helix weapon to a mobile station. Protected by heavy fleets, the rebels would attack it directly. A suicide mission. Maybe but with her knowledge, there was a chance. She knew the weaknesses, the systems, the blind spots. She would go with them. The next night, she stood on the deck of the Vera. Looking at the stars again, Reed walked up beside her. You don't have to go into the fight, he said. She shook her head. Yes, I do. This started with me. He looked at her closely. You've changed, he said. I remembered who I was, she replied. And I chose who I want to be. There was silence. Then he asked, what happens after the war? She looked at him. We build something better. But peace would not come easy, not when the Empire still had claws. The next day, while they prepared for launch, the skies above the forest moon turned red. Empire ships appeared. Hundreds of them. Laser fire rained down. Buildings exploded. Trees burned. The rebel base was under attack. She and Reed rushed to the ship. Screams filled the air. Fighters scrambled to escape. One of the rebel leaders shouted, They found us! They knew our location! Reed cursed. They hacked the message stream. She grabbed his arm. We need to get the files out. If they destroy the data, it's over. They raced toward the central tower. Explosions shook the ground. Hey! Wall collapsed behind them. Reed pushed her forward. Go! He shouted. What about you? She cried. He smiled, tired but sure. I'll cover you. She ran. In the tower. She reached the backup server. Her fingers flew across the controls. Data transfer complete. She turned to run. Just as the tower cracked and began to fall, the Vera took off moments later. Smoke and fire filled the sky. She sat in the back, breathing hard, holding the chip tightly in her hands. Someone asked, "Where's Reed?" She didn't answer. Asterisk later. On a safe world, she stood in front of another camera. Her voice was lower now, stronger. "The Empire burned our base, killed our people, but we're still here. Because we're not fighting alone anymore. We're fighting together, and we will not stop until they fall." The rebellion had begun, and this time they were ready to finish it. The galaxy was burning, from one end of the stars to the other. Systems rose against the Empire. Ships once loyal now turned their guns around. Cities once silent now shouted in the streets. At the center of it all was her, the girl once sold for half price, once forgotten, once broken. Now they called her by a new name, commander of the rebellion, but she didn't care for titles. She only cared about one thing, finishing it. She stood on the bridge of the flagship, the Horizon Blade, watching the final battle begin. Ahead of them, in the black void of space, floated the Empire's last stronghold, the Helix Fortress. Inside it, the weapon she had once helped build. Behind her, hundreds of rebel ships waited for her command. She spoke quietly. "Are the systems ready?" The pilot nodded. "All ships in position. Just say the word." She didn't speak right away. She thought of Reed. She thought of the ones who died to get here. Then she whispered, "Begin." The rebel fleet moved as one. Lights flashed. Missiles flew. The Helix Fortress responded with heavy fire, but they were slow. Worn down, unready for the fire they had created, she focused on one goal: reach the core. "Disable it from inside. Take." "US in," she said. Inside the fortress, alarms screamed. The ship pierced the shield and crashed into a docking bay. She led a small team, soldiers, techs, pilots, through the metal halls. Gunfire rang. Smoke rose. But she didn't stop. She remembered every hallway, every control panel. Every nightmare. They reached the core chamber. The Ketha reactor was glowing, stronger than ever. "Cover the door," she told her team. "I go alone." She stepped into the room where her past had been twisted into a weapon. The walls were the same, the floor cold. The lights bright and cruel. In front of her stood the man who once erased her name, General Vasquez. Pale skin, cold eyes. "You've returned," he said. She didn't speak. "You were supposed to die in silence," he continued. "Yet here you are." A ghost with a voice. "You built this," she replied. "No," he said. "You did." He raised a weapon, but she was faster. Bang. He dropped to the ground. She stood over him. "You never saw me," she said. "You saw a tool, a mind to control, a thing to sell." She looked up at the reactor. "But I saw the truth. And now I choose what happens next." She moved to the console. The core was armed. Ready to fire? Target, rebel fleet. It was a trap. They wanted her to come here. To stop the rebellion with one blast. But she was done being used. She began to override the core. Her fingers moved fast, typing commands only she could understand. Outside, the battle grew louder. The core lights blinked red. One warning flashed. "Self-destruct, engage 5 MI on UTS." Her team ran in. "It's going to blow." Someone shouted. "Exactly," she said. "Get out, now." "But what about you?" "I have to finish it. You'll die." She looked at them, calm, steady. "I was already dead once. Now I choose how it ends." They hesitated. They nodded and ran. She stood alone in the heart of the Empire's last weapon. This was where they broke her. This was where she rebuilt herself. This was where it would end. 4 minutes. She opened one last recording. She faced the camera. "This is for the Empire. For every slave, every scientist, every voice you tried to erase. You used me. You tried to destroy me, but you failed. This weapon ends here. With me, by my hand. My name is Zara. And I was never yours." She sent the message. Outside, her ship had escaped. Rebel crews watched from afar. The Helix Fortress shook. Then, boom, a light brighter than any star filled the sky. And just like that, it was over. Days later, the war officially ended. The Empire had no more weapons. No more lies. The galaxy began to rebuild. Statues were torn down. Truth was taught in schools. Slave markets were turned to ash, but one name remained. Zara. A monument stood in the center of the new capital. At the base, carved in stone, sold for half price, rebuilt the galaxy. People came from every world to stand before it. To remember the one who was broken and rose higher than anyone ever thought possible.